Before we get very far into our next story, we do have a warning for you tonight. What you're about to see and hear may not be suitable for children. Tonight, take a walk in their world.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Transpicuous News. It is March 16th. Again, I'm going to apologize in advance for the background noise. I've been trying for 6 hours to record this, and they just won't stop with the jackhammers. So there seems to be a lull. We're going to catch this where we can. All I keep chanting to myself is 15 more days, and I'll be in the new house, and there won't be construction going on around me all the time. And these recordings will be so much fucking easier. So I'm like hiding out in one of my kids' bedrooms right now, trying to find a quiet corner. So we got some interesting stuff to talk about. Interesting, and of course, we have the ludicrous as well, because I love the ludicrous. But this one this morning, this one almost did it for me today. I have to say, I had one of those moments where I woke up and it was like, right, that's it. California veterinarian now offers sex change operations for transgender dogs and cats. And at this point, I literally was like, stop the fucking planet. I'm getting off. Because really? This is about as insane gets. Completely fucking insane. That's my only comment. Fucking crazy. Anyways, we'll move on from this because this one just like it makes my head just twitch right out. But in the realms of ew, what? Sex toy espionage, a Canadian sex toy company who makes a Wi-Fi controlled vibrator, because really, has just been forced to pay out $3 million for tracking their customers' usage. This is like one of the, what? A Canadian sex toy manufacturer has agreed to pay $3 million to customers for collecting data relating to their sexual habits without their consent. The Canadian company collected intimate personal data on customers without their knowledge, such as how often the devices were used, for how long, the device's temperature, and the vibration intensity. And this, my friends, is why we don't put anything with a computer chip or Wi-Fi or Bluetooth capabilities up to hoo-ha. Because seriously? Really? I can't believe people actually bought this. I'm like, 1,000 reasons comes to mind as why we don't do this kind of shit. Okay, so big news this week. Of course, not really getting much coverage, but big news this week. Monsanto colluded with the EPA, was unable to prove that Roundup does not cause cancer. Unsealed court documents reveal. This one is a soap opera. If you go down this little rabbit hole and actually start going into like these various court documents and who said what to who, and it's a fucking soap opera, okay? For years, the company has assured farmers that their weed-killing product was absolutely safe to use. As proof, Monsanto touted the approval of the chemical by the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency. That said, newly unsealed court documents released earlier today seemingly reveal a startling effort on the part of both Monsanto and the EPA to work in concert to kill and or discredit independent, albeit inconvenient, cancer research. Okay? This gets better. The soap opera of this is of epic levels. Okay? An EPA official who was in charge of evaluating the cancer risk of Monsanto's Roundup allegedly bragged to a company executive that he deserved a medal if he could kill another agency's investigation into the herbicide's key chemical. Hold on here, scrolling down. Here we go. After a phone conversation with Roland, the Monsanto head of U.S. Regulation Affairs, Dan Jenkins, cautioned his colleagues not to get your hopes up. He says, I doubt the EPA and Jess can kill this. So they all knew. It's collusion of the highest levels. And it is literally a fucking soap opera. So, yeah. Remember when the World Health Organization came out and said glyphosate causes cancer? And Monsanto went, oh, no, it doesn't. Yeah, it does. Yeah, yes, it does. And let the lawsuits begin. Oh, this one is kind of brilliant. I really like it. I mean, two birds, one stone. Take down Monsanto and the EPA. Bonus. Let's see. What else we got to talk about? Okay. And again, to all my British friends out there, especially those who still try to insist that they live in a democracy, not a monarchy. No, they have a democratic government. The people voted into power. Right. Yeah, no, you don't. Again, as I said, when the Queen assigned you a prime minister, the Queen gives her royal assent to Article Bill 50. So now, because the Queen has given her assent, this happened just about an hour and a half ago, the Prime Minister of England can now officially move forward with Brexit. Queen gave her royal assent, now they're going to do it. Right. Not a democracy, it's a monarchy. One might call it a dictatorship. But I digress. Let's see, what else have we got here? Okay, so most people in North America aren't following this and have no clue that this is going on. This has been really kind of been kept by the Western media as a European-centric story. If you don't know, there's a war brewing over here between Turkey and the EU. Well, more specifically, between Turkey and the Netherlands and Germany. This is also a fucking soap opera. But if this does not outline the fact that Erdogan is fucking mental, I don't know what does. So I'm gonna try and pare this down because I have got 85 links on this one, which I'm not gonna force you to go through. I'm gonna try and pare it down. Basically, on April 16th, there's a major referendum in Turkey because Erdogan wants to increase his powers. His dictatorial, his, presidential powers. So what he did was send all his little ministers, his little his little rats, scurrying out all over the EU to speak and have rallies in foreign national countries, i.e. Germany, the Netherlands, Austria, etc., to hold rallies for all the expat Turks that lived in those countries so that they would come home to vote in this referendum, of course, in favor of Erdogan. And strangely enough, the Dutch government said, I don't fucking think so. You're not coming here to hold a rally for the Turks who are living in our country to go there to vote in your fucking referendum. No, ain't fucking happening. To the point that the foreign minister and one of the other cabinet ministers, I can't remember, of Turkey, were sent out of the country on Friday. They were supposed to speak last Friday. The Dutch government literally sent them packing, said, no, you're not doing this. Germany also did the same. This has started a media Twitter-fed war of epic proportions. Erdogan is just gone right off the fucking deep end, and his foreign minister, that the government, the Netherlands is a Nazi regime. They're non-democratic. they're racist because they wouldn't let him and his lackeys come into the country and, you know, basically try and brainwash the Turkish people in these countries to go home and vote in the referendum pro what Erdogan wants. This has now gotten to the stage of so asinine, completely and utterly ridiculous that it's almost like jaw hanging open. The kind of the interesting thing, though, is the fact that the two countries that Turkey is freaking out on are the Netherlands and Germany. Both of whom have major elections coming up. Oh, the Netherlands had their election yesterday. So let's cause a huge, huge distraction in the Netherlands in the middle of an election week. Interesting. We'll get to that in a second. But here's the thing. In Austria, did the exact same thing. As a matter of fact, they had 4 different Turkish political meetings were planned to be in Austria, one of which got canceled because they falsifiably labeled it a book presentation when in fact it was a pro-Erdogan political rally. And Austria said, I don't fucking think so. But funnily enough, they don't have an election this year, so Erdogan didn't say anything to them. Yesterday, someone hacked Twitter accounts. And major Twitter accounts, like Amnesty International, and I think it was Greenpeace was one of the others. I mean, pretty big fucking Twitter accounts with the messages of Nazi Germany and Nazi Holland. Okay, now this is interesting because of the words. The tweets included a swastika as well as the hashtags Nazi Germany and Nazi Holland, presumably referring to the increased diplomatic tensions between Holland and Turkey. Well, duh. See you April 16th. April 16th is the date of the referendum. Also, he says, which is the date of the Turkey's referendum to grant more powers to Erdogan, while also referring to the hack as being a little Ottoman slap. Really? Like, you just, seriously? Duke University, what else here was it? UNICEF USA, Amnesty International, all got hacked with this message. All come from Turkey. Let's face some facts, okay? Now, interesting, like I said, Holland had their election yesterday. And the big worry was because there is a Dutch politician who's really a disgusting human being. His name is Geert Wilders, or Wilders, whatever you want to fucking call him. And he's gross. Like, God, the man is just like a screaming racist. Let's call it what it is. But his party was making some serious headway. And there was a lot of fears that if he got, if he didn't win the election, that he would be high enough up in the placements to be able to really hold sway within the government. Well, he didn't, apparently. Apparently, goodness knows, apparently there was some kind of distraction that went on that kind of changed the polling situation. So let me pull down here. Hold on, sorry guys, because it's a live feed, so there's all kinds of messages that have come in today. I can't even bloody find it. Never mind. So anyways, the whole thing is basically 3 separate parties tied for second place in the Dutch election. And one of them is Geert Wilders' party. And the other government, all the other ones were like, we're not going to form a coalition with you. Like, oh, all of you, we don't want to talk to you. Which is an interesting thought about democracy. And this just again, just happened. The Turkish foreign minister said wars of religion will start in Europe over this. There is no difference between the mindsets of Geert Wilders and the Social Democrats in the Netherlands. This is him commenting on the Dutch elections. They all have the same mindset. That mindset is taking Europe to the cliff. Soon, wars of religion may and will start in Europe. I think that's called uttering threats. And last I checked, isn't that kind of like terrorism? Just saying. a little like terrorism. So that's what's going on over here right now. Big, massive distraction playing out in Europe at the moment. Now, this referendum, let me tell you a little bit about this referendum that's happening in Turkey. So, like I said, Erdogan wants more power. So basically, in a nutshell, because we've discussed this since it all played out, Erdogan threw a coup. It was him. He did it himself. No, we can't 100% prove it, but we know it was fucking him. And in doing so, has arrested hundreds of thousands of people, fired tens of thousands of people, arrested court judges, arrested professors, a shitload of media has been arrested and being held without sentencing, without anything. Military arrested. He walked through the government. All the minority parties pretty much got wiped out. So he basically has no real political adversaries anymore because he basically went through and arrested anyone who didn't agree with him. That's what happened in a nutshell, okay? So here's a couple of the things that are on the referendum. So one, age of requirements to stand as a candidate in an election has been lowered from 25 to 18. Because, you know, everyone in the world needs a bunch of 18-year-olds running for government because they're so stable, really. I had one. I know how stable they are. I don't think so. Well, the condition of having to complete compulsory military service is to be removed. No more compulsory military service. Individuals with relations to the military would be ineligible to run for election. So right up until this point, military service is compulsory in Turkey. But if you've got any family members in the military, you can't run for election. Kind of interesting. The powers of parliament to scrutinize ministers and hold the government to account, as well as granting ministers the power to issue decrees regarding certain matters, are abolished. Okay? The president becomes both the head of state and the head of government, with the power to appoint and sack ministers and the vice president. The president can issue decrees about executive orders. So basically, he's setting himself up as to be a dictator. That's what this rally is all about. And he's sending his minions all over Europe to try and convince all the ex-Turks, all the Turkish expats who live all their places now, to come back home to Turkey to vote in this referendum for him, to give him these further dictatorship powers. Call it what it is. It's seriously, like my brain, the shit that Turkey does, and they're one of NATO's biggest partners. And they're trying to get into the EU. They want to become members of the EU. And it's seriously being considered. And yet this is what they're doing. And if this isn't transparency about basically the political situation of the entire world, I don't know what is. Just fucking bizarre, peoples. So we're going to move on here. Israel. Yes, the UN has just released a major report calling Israel an apartheid regime. And Israel is firing back, saying it's a despicable lie and a smear. That's right. Not only Israel has denounced the new UN report, which accuses Tel Aviv of crimes against humanity for running apartheid policies against the Palestinians. Israel's UN envoy has called the document an attempt to falsely label the only true democracy in the Middle East. Again, there's no words. This document is fucking damning. Seriously damning, okay? The report concludes that the weight of the evidence supports beyond a reasonable doubt the proposition that Israel is guilty of imposing an apartheid regime on the Palestinian people, which amounts to the commission of a crime against humanity, the prohibition of which is considered in international customary law. International community, especially the UN and its agencies, member states have a legal obligation to act within the limits of their capabilities to prevent and punish instances of apartheid that are responsibly brought to their attention. More specifically, states have a collective duty, A, not to recognize an apartheid regime as lawful, B, not to aid or assist a state in maintaining an apartheid regime, and C, to cooperate with the United Nations and other states in bringing an apartheid regimes to an end. Oh, we're going to get back to this in a second. In a second. Oh, yes. So, interesting. Also this week, the Deputy Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia was visiting Donald Trump this week. And he says, Saudi Arabia Deputy Crown Prince is singing U.S. Donald Trump's praises after their meeting, calling him a true friend of Muslims, claiming the leader's immigration ban does not target Islam, which is true. It doesn't target Islam. I don't care what you want to go on about. It doesn't target Islam. If it did, it would be going after Saudi Arabia, which is the home of Islam. Just saying. And deserves it way more, really, if you really want to look at things. The Deputy Crown Prince met with Trump at the White House in what his senior advisor deemed a historic turning point in U.S. and Saudi relations. This would be at the exact same time that the Crown Prince went to Japan and got off of his, I think there were 10 aircraft, took the golden escalator off the aircraft, because apparently he only walks on golden escalators. 500 limos, 1,200 luxury rooms for him to have a state visit in Japan. Oh, and by the way, apparently he's decided he's going to buy an entire archipelago of islands while he's there. Needless to say, there's a lot of Japanese people not very happy about this visit. Can't imagine why. Grossness personified right there. And if you really want to fundamentally understand where I'm going with this, putting those two articles side by side, I invite you to go back and read an article I wrote in October of 2015 called "The Islamic Extremism: The History of and the the History of the Saudi Royal Family, and who created the Saudi royal family and who created Wahhabism." Because they're not Islamic. They're not Muslims. They're Wahhabists. And people need to understand the history of where Wahhabism came from, who funded it, who started it, and who fully supports it. Oh, i.e. Israel. Yeah, isn't that funny? Isn't that funny how that works together? So let's just look at this for a second. Donald Trump is fully in support of Israel, and to the point of trying to push the move of the American embassy out of Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, which I talked about in the last show. He's making it all friendly now with the Royal House of Saud, mending the fences, and is now talking about defunding and perhaps even going so far as to leave the United Nations. Could it be that the reason why he's making these noises to leave the United Nations is because he knew that this fucking report was about to come out about Israel and apartheid? I.e., what does it say? Not to aid or assist a state in maintaining an apartheid regime? Just saying. Just saying. Now, the interesting thing that came up as well today was just fucking announced is Trump just released his first budget blueprint. Yeah. Massive cuts across the board. Massive cuts to things like the EPA, which I don't really fucking care about because they're one of the most corrupt governmental agencies on the face of the fucking planet. And tits on a bowl for all that they're useful for. Massive cuts. But also massive cuts to education, healthcare. Even though apparently he promised to spend $1 trillion in building new roads and bridges and infrastructure, he's put massive cuts in there too. All to balance out the $54 billion increase in military spending. And he's going to rebuild the nuclear arsenal. So, You know, I talk about maintaining a neutral standpoint, about being the observer. We need to be the observer and take the information in. I'm sorry. More and more little pieces falling into place here. It don't look too good. But I'm still watching. Just watching. Just gonna keep watching. See where it all goes. But what we have right now is a big old clusterfuck. That's what we call this. Big old clusterfuck. We'll see. Yeah, that's it for Transpicuous News today. Again, I'm sorry if the drilling comes through the mic. I really did try to hide myself away somewhere quiet. It's as best I could do. But in 15 days, I will be in the new place. And I'll have my own little quiet piece and quiet corner to do my shows in. Yay. That's it for me. I'll talk to you later, guys. Bye.